Detroit is 3.5.
Yeah, it's really warm.
Budget adjustment.
Sorry. Mhm.
And
Yeah.
probably can have a
No,
little bit of
trying to get the Canada, believe me. You ready?
We'll need to order at 6 p.m. Everybody had a chance to look at the agenda?
Yeah.
Any additions or deletions?
How much can we delete?
Someone has the volume on and
It's coming on the projector.
Yeah, we have it on there. Oh, my goodness.
Coming out of the projector.
Coming out of the projector.
Sorry, that was me. Y'all told me it was me.
Motion to accept agenda is presented. Also thorough, all in favor, carried. Delegations,
No one approached, asking to speak as a delegation.
public presentations. Go ahead, Carol.
Good evening. I do want to say that I really appreciate some of the questions that Hanna has been asking, because it really helps clarify stuff for us. And it's been really helping, so I appreciate that. So keep asking questions. I also appreciate the colored half-page notes. They're awesome. I know that we're looking for them because they're quite neat. They summarize all the stuff in Hanna, and I think that's really nice to see. So, informational meetings, on the webpage, I kind of learned a little bit in the last 10 minutes, but it states that they're not always recorded. And I want to tell you that from the last informational meeting, I went back and reviewed it and saw it different. Okay, so those recordings are really important because sometimes what we remember happening isn't what happened. So it's really cool to go back and take a look at them. And I really appreciate having those online. So don't get rid of them because they're really important. Okay, so it was really good. Okay, because the other reason why is I find that when I look back at the meeting minutes, the short form doesn't have enough information about discussions and topics. So I think there's a long form that could probably be requested, but the short form actually gives a little bit. But I know when we were younger and did our things at school, we actually did a long form where we commented on, we wrote down everybody's comments, and that's how we remembered doing them. So, and I'm learning about informational meetings, so I'll save that as a question. So on social media, we saw some pictures of needles being left around town. So the needles are definitely going to affect seniors walking, kids walking down the streets, animals walking around, and how people see Hanna. So most of this I'm like wondering, it's not a bylaw infraction besides littering, but it's probably a lot worse than that because it's not like gum being thrown out, right? So I don't know if it's a question to ask or just a comment to say, I'm hoping that we're looking at a way to figure out how to handle the needles that are kind of new to Hanna, I think. I'm not sure. I haven't heard much about them anyway for me, but so I don't know if that's a question or just a comment right now. So the last one that I want to take a quick look at again is I asked about the hen bylaw last week. So I went back and looked at the video and understood a couple more things, and now I have another question with it. So the current law says no fowl are mentioned anywhere, even in the residential acreage. The animal control bylaw says thou shalt have no fowl in Hanna. So both of those concur and they both agree, right? So it's not my opinion that matters. It's all about forming how the bylaws are going. And so my question is can the councilors direct me to another rule or provision that allows you to deviate from the bylaw, from the current or upcoming bylaws, to allow this pre-trial without amendments on hearings for specific bylaws? So if you want, I'm just checking for the councilors. If you know, is there a provision or a rule that allows you to have a pre-trial before you amend a bylaw, or before you amend a bylaw or have a pre-trial? If there's a rule or something that I'm missing on that.
By a pre-trial, you're referring to the hens at the lodge?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. That's on a probationary basis as experiment, see if it would work or not. Vote on by council.
Yeah, but is there a ruling or a bylaw or something on that? Because
No, there's not.
Because if your bylaws state that you can't have any, you would, my understanding is you have to have the hearing, like have to amend the bylaw before you allow a pre-trial.
So,
And that's what I was getting at last week, but it wasn't quite clear, so I'm putting this a little clearer for. my
so
question.
I'll try to answer. So you are 100% correct. Right now, the bylaw says no fouls in town
Correct.
unless you're in a residential area.
Even the residential, which is not how it's listed, right?
In land use bylaw, it does. So I know they contradict each other, and that's why one of the things we'll clean up in the land use bylaw is our limit. So
The current bylaw though doesn't include police forces and stuff, but it doesn't say foul.
in the current land use bylaw. Okay. So council did, as on 3 occasions now, had a proposal from either the school, the hospital, or the lodge in regards to raising fouls on their property.
Yeah.
Council went outside the box. If somebody legally challenged it, we might have been on ourselves in the wrong side, but council made a decision to allow foul in those 3 situations as a pilot project. And I think unfortunately 2 of the 3 have failed. And part of the reason, and council can correct me if I'm wrong, but the big reason around all 3 of them, for the most part, was they were not in a residential area. They were going to be outside a residential area. The school would have been the exception, but they have a large property to put their fouls on. They never went through with their project. But I think, and council can correct me if I'm wrong, I think they felt the enclosure at long-term care kept them away from any residential traffic and residential viewing and impacts to any residents. And same with the urban hens at the lodge being on the west side of the lodge, not being near any residential areas. So they allowed that as a one-off special resolution. Wasn't a bylaw, it was a resolution.
Okay. Okay, so as long as I am with the understanding that to enforce a bylaw, it has to be a current bylaw. And to change a bylaw, it has to be an amended bylaw through the hearings 1, 2, 3, in order to have a change in the bylaw.
That's correct.
All bylaws need 3 readings. Not all of them require a public hearing. Not all bylaws require a public hearing, but anything to do with land requires a public hearing.
So what kind of bylaws don't require a public hearing?
There's many. One that jumps into my head that we do on an annual basis is our tax rate bylaw. So our tax rate bylaw does not require three readings, or a public hearing, sorry. They all require 3 readings, it just doesn't require a public hearing.
Oh, yes, and that's because it's done. Right, I see the difference, which I require 3 readings, but not the public hearing.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah, all bylaws require 3 readings.
right. Okay, that was what I was wanting to clarify. Awesome. Thank you.
The others? Right.
And again, I'll try to agree. Mr. Mayor, I'm wondering if we might ask that the agendas for the meeting be posted ahead of time. So that interested community members might see what's on the agendas. Couple hours before it's starting. Just if there's something that piques somebody's interest that they might not have been aware of, that it can be viewed somewhere. The day before, with the understanding that, of course, you have amendments and that you can change at during or when you accept your agenda.
Yeah, it certainly is an option. As you guys are aware, the agenda is done Friday, the package is done Friday, so.
We can post up.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Also, to you, Mr. Mayor, where can we review the proposed land use bylaw? I think I see on one of the mailouts that it was up and can be reviewed and probably a public hearing in August. Did I misunderstand that it's can be publicly reviewed at this moment?
No, you understand correctly. It can be public reviewed. It is on our website.
I'm sorry, I just
The
can't.
The link is in the ad that you read to be able to do that.
Thank you.
So no, but we can, if you're having trouble finding it on the website, Elaine, just reach out. But it is on our website. What was the second part of the question? I already forgot it. Or was that-
Public hearing.
The public
Oh, the
hearing.
public hearing. So this public hearing date has not been set yet.
Oh, yeah, no, I just was referring to what I read and
Okay,
that was a suggested date. It was Monday.
yeah, no, we will confirm the public hearing date at our August meeting. We are looking at a few dates in September.
Is there a plan in the future? I understand that land use bylaws are taking up a lot of time and effort to review some of the other bylaws. I see go back 1984, 1983.
There's some further back than that.
Okay.
Yeah, there is,
There are some that, I just was reading the garbage disposal, and according to that, I can bundle up my cardboard and put it alongside my receptacle and like that.
yeah, no, there is, Elaine, there are some changes that we need to review, especially in that one with Henry Kruger, Big Country Waste, changing how they're accepting waste at the transfer station. So they do not want grass clippings or branches or any of that stuff in the transfer station where our waste goes when our contract picks it up. So it definitely needs to be revisited and put into what is happening now with the changes. So
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mayor and Councillor Olson, can someone who does not own the property put in a proposal for rezoning and developmental plans?
That's my knowledge, no.
Thank you.
Like,
no, that's correct. The owner's the only one. I guess technicality, they can have if they have a real estate firm or consulting firm, they can have them make the application, but the owner has to sign the process that they are okay with that. Because sometimes on the rezoning, they'll have a consultant do the rezoning project for them or an architect, but they have to sign the actual rezoning application form.
So, in regards to the, I think it was the May meeting, the municipal planning commission, you addressed two properties, separate properties. So one of those changes was absolutely not proposed by the landowner. I'm talking to 502 Second Avenue West, the current landowner or the landowner at that time. And where could I find where it was posted for 21 days?
So Elaine, that wouldn't have been a rezoning application. Rezoning applications come before council. That would have been a request for variance on a development permit.
Right, so, but if I don't own the property, I can put in, whatever you just said.
The application.
A developmental permit, I can submit a developmental permit for property I do not own. And wait to see if that is approved before I go ahead and purchase that property.
Yeah,
And there is a rezoning bylaw going to be either done or, because what I read, it's kind of business, but back to residential at one point. So I'm wondering how all of this has come to be without that person owning the property already.
Can you be more specific? I'm trying to follow exactly what you're.
So 502 Second Avenue West, the property right across from Home Hardware,
Okay,
that that's a property you addressed, or that was addressed at your meeting on May 17th. I do believe there was the motions carried. The approval of the variance to development.
right. Yeah,
That
very
person
specific.
did not own that property yet. No, the owner of the property is sitting right here. So, and you said before, the owner of the property would have to agree to that. She was not even made aware of that
The variance on the building for the frontage of it, if I recall.
the house.
This, yeah.
The whole,
Setback, yeah.
and so I'm assuming the development of the house itself would have had to go through development.
That's what we were doing with that meeting.
Yeah.
Through MPC.
Okay, so you could do that before final property. That property was not owned by the person that was seeking those changes at that time.
I'm aware of that.
Sorry,
To be honest, unaware of that, because you were also on the property.
so when you changed it, you did not know who the current owner was of that property?
We didn't change anything. It was for
Yeah,
their
It was for
development,
the development permit.
for their
Everybody's gonna
development.
build the house without purchasing the lot. There's a lot more legal stuff there, the permit for that. The building that wasn't there, that's what we allowed as the potential building to be shifted to have that side yard
So
change.
that, again, my only question is,
It's to the
It's okay
building
then.
permit, not to the owner. It has nothing to do with the land. It was for what they're proposing to build on the land.
so I can say where you live right now, Dave, I'm going to come and I want to buy you out, I want to put a barn there. Can I come to you and say, this is what I want to put, will you approve that before I purchase or change anything, will you approve that? That application before I purchase the land. The condition of sale, even
Yeah.
before the condition of sale. There was not even an offer made on, a technical offer made on the land.
I can't say it's legal
Is it
ramifications.
sold now though?
Yes,
Yes.
To the property owners that made the,
it's a building
Proposal?
house. Yeah,
So the property owner now is the one that made the.
an application?
Yes.
In a normal,
Request.
in a normal procedure, we look on Maze on our system to see who the title owner is. The trouble right now with land titles is they are 6 to 12 months behind, so it's very tough to verify that kind of stuff if it's a recent sale. And the fact that we've seen the for sale sign and everything on it, so we take the applicant at his word, but I mean, even if you approve that building, you can't build it if he doesn't own the land. So, yes, you could go get a development application.
You could build them.
You could go get a development application, build a barn on my place, knock yourself out. It doesn't help you any
Yeah.
because
Is
you
that
can't.
something that you?
yeah, I mean, a development permit process, you would accept your $10 and if you want to
So-
propose.
I mean, we could
So
change
that
our
has to
rule.
go through Zoning change, the way I understand the map, and I could be wrong, it's not a residential.
You're wrong,
The only zoning change was when Sherry came and asked for that zoning change.
and it hasn't been
Years
changed
ago.
back.
So it's still resident.
Yeah.
Okay, then I'm missing the colors on the map that show that.
And the mapping that we had
And the current.
could be some of the mapping colors we found. They're updating them currently, trying to get them all right on the next edition, on the new land use bylaw. So there is a few things that haven't been updated in their mapping color.
And so you don't, what about if there's a developmental permit, development permit? Applied for, requested. Do you have to contact who? And again, back to my question, where was that posted for 21 days?
It was advertised, the decision for the relaxation of setbacks was advertised in the central review. And it was letters sent out to the adjacent landowners.
Kind of a flyer. Thank you, I missed that, so
And I can get you the date to when that was if you need it.
I did just, well, I guess the date that they would post it in, just maybe remind of where again, I tried to go to the central review. And, but that doesn't. Anyway, thank you, I appreciate the input.
Okay, we're well over your 5 minutes, can you round up?
Oh, okay. One quick question for Mr. Neal, you addressed the January 2024 tender and May 2024 constitution and downtown redevelopment purpose. 2018, I understand the community received $4 million from CCG, and date of that was 2021. And I'll sit down and have that answer. So how much of that money has been used towards the downtown redevelopment proposal, and how much more are you expecting? The only other thing that I wanted to address is July 26th, you sent a review, council debate and case. And it is
July 26th, we're not there yet.
July 6th, thank you very much, 23. Right. July 6th, 23. The essential Alberta review, thank you, Denny. Mr. Mayor. So it talks about a meeting June 28th, the council meeting, and things that were discussed. Mr. Neal makes a comment, from my understanding, that location was chosen due to the closeness of the substation. So I'm just going to say again, the numbers for the kilowatts proposed, initially proposed, and now proposed have changed. I appreciate Mr. Olson and Councillor Bodine's points they raised were very good points. However, the June 21st presentation hosted by Pace, there was a low turnout, approximately 30 people. I see that as that it's growing and more people are becoming interested. The only thing in an email discussion between me and Mindor said he felt the people who opposed the project were not open-minded. So I just want to say I beg to differ. I think we all went there with open mind. We may have went with different opinions. Thank you.
So I do want to address the 4 million
Okay,
in the downtown. So the town has not received any money for the downtown.
It was supposed to be done. So that 4 million that was supposed to be spent by 20 January.
The 4 million through the CCTI infrastructure fund is up, is good till March 31st, 2025.
Okay, I'm just telling you what I was referring to is this Alberta Economic Development and Trade Grant Agreement.
Well, that was the one in 2017.
The initial $4 million that
It was $420,000 is what we received here in 2017.
okay.
And that was, again, a majority of that, just off the top of my head, majority of that went to urban systems with their study on the, I'm not sure what, cat teams and cat teams and stuff like that. And also a good chunk of the money went to HLC at the time to facilitate the groups and the meetings and all of the stuff that happened as part of that. But
So if I might just quote you, the biggest positive outcome is that today, and this is 2018, is that it has moved the community forward with the necessary groundwork to apply for funding, which the region has been very successful in receiving from Western economic diversification in the amount of 4.0 million to date.
yeah, we have allocated, the region was allocated, trying to think in my mind, it was allocated about $8 million for the region through CCTI. Special areas has used 3.5 or has been approved for up to 3.5 for their industrial park. And through the region, we agreed that out of that 8 million, 4 million of that could be allocated to our downtown project. We're still working with it's now Prairies Can on that grant application, but to date, there's been no money received or the grant for the downtown approved at this point.
So this is incorrect.
I'm not sure. We don't have the 4 million. We haven't received any money or even confirmation that the project is guaranteed moving forward.
Thank you, ladies, for the present. Do you have something to speak? Okay. Moving along. Adoption of minutes of the meeting, assuming everybody's had a chance to read the minutes from June 13th, 2023. Councilor Murphy, motions to accept the minutes as presented. All in favor? Carried. Minutes of the information meeting held June 28th, 2023, be adopted as presented. Councilor Olson. All in favor? Carried. Accounts payable. Council Wallace.
I have a couple questions. 042714, the Professional Gardener Company Limited. Plant fertilizer mix, in the sum of, $2,376. I'm just wondering, like, where is that? What, is that an online service? Like, is that, purchased elsewhere, or
No,
what's
it was
the
purchased,
professional?
yeah, it's
gardener?
purchased from the professional garden.
So that's
It's a company, I believe, in Calgary that mixes a special fertilizer blend for flowers and plants that we've been using on Pam's recommendation, and we've been using it for a number of years. The $2,400 we bought is a 3 or 4 year supply.
okay. And, can anybody see what the configuration of that is?
I'd have to look on the invoice to tell you what the configuration is. So
Okay.
there is a certain formula. I couldn't tell you what it is.
Okay, can we get that? Can
Sure.
anybody get that?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. Also, 042715, Vital Israel. There was, this was on a previous, AP, but on this one again, it was a refund. So, or the previous was a refund, this one was an expense of, 225. So I guess I'm just questioning what Vital Israel is.
He's a person.
Oh, okay. Oh,
This is utility overpayment refund.
so who is this? Like somebody local or
His
some?
local, he overpaid his utility bill.
Oh,
been
okay, I'm
15
sorry.
years.
I didn't know if it was, okay, I didn't have an understanding that it was a person. Okay, that's good. That's all that I have. Thank you.
Anyone else? Nobody.
So here's one.
Motion to accept the accounts table listing for general accounts check number 42679 to 42733 and direct deposit payments from 002121 to 002243 for information.
I'll make that motion.
Counselor Warwick.
Mr. Mayor.
All in favor? Carried. Statement of revenue and expenses, June 2023. Questions?
Yeah, I got one.
Girl,
It's with the airport local grant. They said we're $106,305. Are we getting that later in the year, or is that just the budget that we have a big budget?
No, so the airport local grant is the money we receive from special areas.
Oh, okay.
So what it constitutes this year, it's larger than most years, but what it constitutes this year is their share of the runway lighting project.
Oh,
So generally at the end of the year, we will send them an invoice at the end of the year on the net cost of the operations of the airport. So
okay.
any other questions? Motion to council accept the statement of revenue and expense report for June 2023. Council Crowell. All in favor? Carried. Budget overview. Any questions, concerns? Motion to accept the budget overview June 2023 for information. Council Murphy, all in favor? Carried. Capital budget update.
the only comment I was gonna make, and but probably stealing the fire chief's thunder, he's probably gonna talk about it in his report, is the fire truck. So do you have a date for the inspection, Mr. Fire Chief?
Hoping the middle of September, but I'm trying to move it up if it can get done sooner. Plant's closed right now. They do a summer break, so waiting for them to get back and see what our next date is. It's looking good. It's coming along nice.
So what would be the timeline or process, I guess, as much as you can guess in terms of once the inspection is done till the apparatus is actually in Hanna?
At least 30 days.
Okay, so it can be fairly quick.
Yeah, if the inspection goes good.
Okay.
All depends on how many deficiencies we find at the factory and what they have to fix or change. But looking at the last pictures from a week and a half ago, that's come along nice.
Sorry if you were gonna talk about that later.
Thunder. Okay, motion to accept council, or second quarter capital budget update in June 2023 for information. Motion. Council Cole, all in favor? Carried. Committee reports, community services. Council Carroll.
No, everything looked great, what was going on. We're not having another one until September. And we're hoping to have a few new members by then. I think you got to put it out in the paper, down 4.
Yeah, we have advertised.
Yeah.
Haven't had any.
Haven't had-
Okay, municipal planning commission,
We need a motion.
Oh, sorry.
Or Vern, or did Vern make the motion?
Vern made the motion, all in favor? Carried. Municipal planning commission in June 13.
I have a comment. I attended that meeting. I was. Yeah, that's really. No, I left the, Palestine meeting at noon to get to this meeting.
Yeah, that's right. I think we got it, you were at video conference
I
that
came for
evening.
that evening, I came for the photos and then I went home for.
We'll make that amendment.
I thought it was my mom.
Just seeing if you're paying attention.
Yeah.
Anything else to add?
She's all in there.
Motion to accept amended,
I can do that.
Councilor Moon, all in favor? Carried. Senior Administrator Officials Report.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just, we'll highlight a few things. So on the downtown project, we have the information package ready to go. My plan is to hopefully Thursday and Friday, I want to hand deliver it to our business owners in the downtown area. And in the package, it has the plans to date. Talks about the potential timelines if the project is approved. And it asks some specific questions about access, water connections, does it have a crawl space or a basement? Just things to kind of get them thinking about if the project goes ahead and downtown is under construction for 2 months, how it will affect their business. So I'm going to deliver those. There is, I think, 3 meeting dates in August that we set aside with Sarah with MPE to meet with owners one-on-one to talk about concerns, issues, how it will affect them. We're trying to get ahead of the game and make sure we have the least impact possible if the project goes forward. And there's also an option too, if they would prefer a virtual meeting with us, that they can. So all those will be delivered this week to them. They'll be the ones that are most directly affected. And we want to make sure that they're 100% aware of the project, the design, timelines, and potential impacts with access. So there's going to be some challenges because I don't know if a lot of them have outside host connections. A lot of them don't have necessarily a secondary access. So there's going to be some challenges as we move forward with that. But the hope is there'll be some temporary sidewalks, stuff put in, to mitigate any of the challenges as we move forward. So that's happening over the summer. We do have the assessment or the building condition reports on the 7 buildings. I haven't had a chance to, but the final reports have been returned. You did see that in our correspondence that our application for the bridge funding was not approved. So been talking with MPE and we will resubmit, but prior to resubmission, I've asked them to provide a report on the difference between a culvert system and a bridge system, pros and cons of both systems. And then council can deliberate which direction they would like to go, and then we'll put that as part of the application, has to be in, I think, November. So,
With Dr. Newcross person involved.
yeah, definitely. Apex, just, you're probably gonna see them. Somerville's been in town doing a lot of work. Apex is gonna be in our residential areas. So I think council remember in 2018, they did significant gas line replacements throughout a majority of our residential area. I guess it's come to their attention that their low volume tapping tees do not meet standards now for this. So they're gonna have to go back and replace a significant number of these tees. Most of them are in alleys. So I've asked them before they start to provide us with their communications plan, because I'm not sure if it's gonna, if an alley is gonna be out of business for a week or a day or 5 hours. So that's happening. We've moved forward with the columbarium purchase. Again, and this is a comment in regards to costs. So the low tender we got, or low cost proposal, was 22.7. No disrespect to local, we did have local provide a quote, but there was $20,000 difference in the price. So we have moved forward with Sunset, who have done 3 of the 4 columbariums over there. So the AM convention, Alberta Municipalities Convention meeting, potential administer municipal affairs. So I know I mentioned it at the council info session. They would like 3. They would like our 3 agenda items in advance. Those were the 3 we talked about at the meeting. I know I had a conversation with Councilor Bowden today. And she's suggesting that maybe rather than the weather station funding, that maybe we have a discussion with the minister about recycling, cost of recycling for small rural areas. I know there's been lots of discussion about cardboard paper and having to take it out to the transfer station, and that's an issue for some. And again, even the volume of material they collect, like tin and glass, whether it's possible to get some of that going. I know speaking with commission staff and representatives over the years, there's no money made, there's money lost in recycling. And I know there's been some talk about using some different methods of recycling versus recycling and shipping it or sending it away. Whether that would be another option that we could talk to the minister about, or unless somebody else had a different priority agenda item that they wanted to bring forward.
May
Yeah, go ahead.
I guess my concern, and bringing that up is because when I go and take stuff to the transfer station, glass, they're no longer sorting them out, and for that very reason that there is no money in it, and I don't think there ever has been a whole lot of money in it.
Not in
Anyways, so if that's going back into our disposals, then our cells are going to be utilized a lot faster. Our roads are going to be hauling more, and that has an impact on our infrastructure as well. So that was part of my concern with the expenses associated with that. If that is something that the minister might have some input on how it affects the rural communities. And Mr. Neal had mentioned in the larger centers, they are able to deal with it better due to the volume.
Whereas in our area to get something of any value, the volume has to be quite extraordinary. And,
Yeah, it's volume and proximity to a delivery point. We don't have the trucking fees and the costs of hauling the recycled cardboard or paper to a distributor in Calgary or Edmonton. They're already in Calgary and Edmonton, so.
so I was wondering if you had any suggestions for the rural areas, because I'm sure we're not the only ones, and
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
the thing that comes to mind when we get before, you know, our ministry, over the years, our MSI funding, and I know it's not called that now. What is
Local government fiscal framework.
That's
Yeah.
it right there. I just think it is upon us to keep advocating for that funding and the impacts. As we talk about these other little projects that, you know what, in fact, that money could probably help out in those areas. We had a significant reduction in MSI or that other name.
Yes,
Over the
still
last.
MSI, I think.
Yes, okay, sorry, I've just known it as that over the years, but I think I would be, you know, in a position that I want to, you know what, continue to advocate for that MSI funding and the impacts it has on our community and the reduction of the MSI, what it does to our community. And I think if we, you know, as communities throughout the province, as we get together, if every one of us is coming to the table with the same message, I think the impacts are great. So if I was going to advocate for anything above all, I would be sitting at the table, talking to our ministry. Funding.
So just for clarification, Councilor Warwick, so in the list there, infrastructure funding, that's what I refer to as MSI, so.
Okay. It
So
has so many
that-
names. Okay,
yeah.
so we'll call it that then. Okay,
Okay,
that's,
so that definitely is on the list.
okay, perfect. Thank you.
I noticed, Mr. Neal, that you attended today an affordable housing funding. Did you find it of any use from CMHC?
Bits and pieces, the trouble I find with webinars is you get interrupted and you leave it. The good part generally is they'll send you a link and you can go back and watch it another time. So I didn't get to see it fully and comprehend it, but it sounds like there's a new program out there on the federal side to look at affordable housing options. So through
And
CMHC, so.
that, yeah,
that's something that's certainly becoming a concern in Hanna as we've seen more of a homeless struggle. There are many people in Hanna right now who are one paycheck away from being homeless and having someone, myself, being homeless at one point earlier this year, I really feel for that. And I know we're not the only ones, but when you live rural and are struggling with your home, it's not that you have an affordable place to go. There's nowhere else. So I don't know if that's something we'd like to discuss with the.
My only comment, Councilor Murphy, around that is he would probably listen to your concern, but it's not a municipal affairs ministry's role. It would be in, I'm not sure if it's called seniors and affordable housing now that the ministry changes, but he would probably simply listen and say, I'll direct that to my counterpart. But if there's an opportunity for a meeting with that appropriate minister, I think that's definitely a great idea, because it is getting to be an issue here. And I don't know if anybody's had any discussions with the Big Country Housing Authority.
Not yet, but I get that's something
I do think that
Mr. Holden.
should be on their radar as much as they can, because they already have the affiliation with affordable housing, and whether they have the capability or ability to take more properties on or go through the process to get more developed and purchased. But I think they need to be a partner at minimum at the table. So.
I'd be more than happy on behalf of the council to contact Mr. Holden.
Well, Jerry, you know, and myself,
Have you been in contact with him?
yeah. They're gonna set up a special meeting for us.
That's awesome.
But yeah, it's probably a bigger issue today, definitely a bigger issue today than it was 5 years ago, so.
You can keep me up to date on that. That would be great. Or have me tag along, that'd be even better. Thank you. Mr. Quill.
So any
So
other,
I guess for just rocket, we can, if you have anything such as funding or where we think that our priority should be, bounce it off of Mr. Hill. And we could come and.
I think the fire chief would like to raise an option.
Oh, no, he's got it out. Go ahead.
Alberta Fire Chiefs Association will be approaching the minister along with Alberta municipalities and Rural Municipalities Association this summer. We're getting a meeting with the minister also, and we're pushing for some resolutions that come out of our annual conference in AGM. And one of them is a pension for volunteer firefighters as a recruitment and retention tool. Another one is higher tax credits for volunteer firefighters, again, as a recruitment retention tool. Along with numerous other endeavors, we're looking for more money for regional training groups. They reinstated the program last year, but unfortunately only put $500,000 in the program, and it was oversubscribed drastically. So we've just finished a survey and updating their office with that. So I could give you a long list of issues, because this is a minister that we deal a lot with. So, but those would be some things we could put a plug in for fire services.
The only challenge being devil's advocate in Hanna is if the fire chief asks us if we've got a problem having volunteers, it's hard for me to say we have a full roster. So I know it's impacting different people, and that's a good message that we have a full roster because people want to be volunteer firefighters here. But you know, we're probably in a little bit more of a unique situation than some fire departments.
How, there are some that are close to retiring, is that correct? Or when is the next wave of retirement?
Depends when you piss me off next. I mean, I'm at the top of the grid now as far as age of firefighter. When you say getting ready, we're always got some going out the top and new ones coming in the bottom, right? We've been fortunate. Our recruitment retention's been good right now, not an issue.
And
But
what do you think is the reason for that, for the attraction? Is it the fire tower or?
lots of things, the deputy chief sunny disposition.
I knew that.
Yeah.
So just, Mr. Mayor, so the surrounding areas, are they having trouble with recruitment and retention? Or like the other small communities, could you speak to that? Like Oyen and the other, I know we do the far outreach and you help those communities in a lot of ways, but do they have a full slate of firefighters in those smaller community content?
I don't think you'll find many that are 100% full, but in our immediate special areas area, actually, it's not too bad right now. My understanding was some other chiefs on the branch of you were different. No. Yeah, but when we sit at Alberta Fire Chiefs meetings, it is a major issue. It is a major, and part of it is if you start running 300-400 calls a year in the volunteer department, it gets tougher and tougher to get people to come out just because you're so busy. So maybe in the special areas, the fact that we have a lower call volume maybe helps us a little bit is what I think of it. But just anytime in front of the minister, you can put those plugs in for those.
Yeah. Mr. Mayor, just moving on. It's not in my report, but I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the events that have been happening in town. You know, last weekend we had the Can-Am Bowl. Score wasn't good for Canada, but it was a great event. Lots of people out watching, lots of excitement around it. We did have a provincial ball play down weekend here. We have another busy weekend again this weekend. We have the swim meet here on Saturday. We've got the gun show this weekend, and we have another division of ball that's having provincial playdowns. Following weekend, we have our jamboree, and we also have actually the provincial finals for one of our baseball teams are hosting So lots of stuff going on and
Music in the park for you.
and music in the park every Sunday. So I just want to, Mr. McCaig, got me thinking about this. So I just want to make sure people on those teams and with those groups, and those organizations, understand the appreciation the community has for them putting the time and the effort in to host events like this that bring people to our community. So it's great having the outside people here and outside dollars here. So any support we can provide them to do that is much appreciated. So just wanted to put in a plug there. The other thing, just looking at Michelle's report, I wanted to just touch base a little bit on disc golf. So I think she's raised it with council before. There was some money through the wellness grant and the wellness committee that they've set aside for this potential disc golf course. So the one of the designers was out last week and we focused on Fox Lake Park and the open area. And he's got a design for anywhere from 3 to 16 holes that he can fit out there, and it can be phased in as we move forward. So we're just finalizing some of that design, and we've got an example. The mayor saw it the other day, so we actually have a disc golf basket or whatever you want to call it in one of the offices here that Michelle's going to talk to our local fabricators to see if that's something they'd be interested in, and then what type of price they could do it for. So we got to figure that out and factor that out and see what we can get going. My recommendation to Michelle was to start small and see what we can do within our initial $5,000 in terms of that gives us 3 holes or 5 holes, and then see how it goes. And if it's well used and seems to be catching on, we might want to then look at expanding in future years, but get something up there that gets started that people can try and
It's actually
see if we can
interesting. My
use
wife
this.
wants to put a room over there.
Yeah. So yeah.
Location for it?
So we're looking at the open area in Fox Lake Park. So when you turn into the park on the left-hand side, out in that area there, trying to create something out there. So I just wanted to let you know that we still are working with that. And the other thing that's going to take some time with Michelle and her group is they are working hard. The youth club is working hard on their team fair in September. So I think that's going to start to ramp up and monopolize, but we're the first one since 2019. So, and I'll answer any questions I can if council has any.
I think also the pickleball was able to have sort of a small tournament at the new pickleball court. And I believe I thought I saw that some of the numbers show that the revenue is close to the expenses on some of our facilities as far as the software and all that. And stuff.
Yeah, take that with a grain of salt, though. Yeah, there still is some
Still some
expenditures that have to be spent on mall diamonds and soccer fields.
Yeah,
So
but at least it's great to see the activity going
Yep.
on and the venues being utilized.
yeah, like
So
even
that's
last
huge.
weekend, the Red Deer, I think it was Red Deer and Lacombe.
Yeah,
There'll be 2 other teams here this weekend from out of town for the next division. And then the provincials, I'm not sure how large the baseball provincials are. No, Kyle and his daughter were just up in Grand Prairie. And there was a massive group of teams at that provincials.
Yeah,
Was there 20, 16, 20?
there was 16 just for U15, and there was another like 14 for U13 at the same time, the same weekend. It was big.
So I don't know how big the ball provincials are. I don't think it's 16, but it'll be bigger than 4. So
but it is so much better seeing those facilities being
Yeah.
Was there
utilized.
2 qualifiers going on in town last weekend? Because I know the girls were up on the diamond, on the tripod. There was a boys team coming for ice cream. I seen from the shop.
I don't think the only qualifier I was aware of, Mr. Mayor, was the boys.
Okay, because it was, yeah, like I said, there was quite a few people there.
Yeah.
And isn't our student population?
Oh, yeah, no, there's interest in trying to have a ball hockey tournament, long weekend in August, and then, as Tanner mentioned to council when he was here, the curling club's looking to host a cornhole tournament, the end of August, so. And then we'll have the fall fair, the cruise, the airport, there's lots going on in town, so.
So speaking of lots going on in town, we got back from my fishing trip, we pulled in the dump Heller, and they have a block party trailer. They were more digging into it, so it's basically got a Wi-Fi speaker, it's got some cables, it's got some barricades. And I thought, that would be kind of interesting, so I just cutting the grass, the neighbors walked by, mentioned it to them, and I think we're gonna try and pull one up in Stevens Crescent.
Mr. Mayor, we have one.
Do we?
Yeah.
Okay, we need to make that more public then.
Yeah, we've got one, check with Michelle on it.
Okay.
I can't tell you exactly what's in it, but I know, again, it was funding through the wellness group that we.
Yeah, because like this, it was funny because it was actually one of the guys come fishing with it. They were having their Canada Day party in conjunction with Canada Day. And I said, so what's in that thing? So he actually took me to show me, like, it's got a big Bluetooth speaker, it's got tables and it's got chairs.
I think it's not quite ready, that's why we haven't.
Is it? Okay.
Yet. Just in discussions that I've had with
Okay.
her, but
But if it isn't ready, it's close and probably would give you the majority
The
of what you
basics.
want.
Yeah. Perfect.
We used to have one up in Mill Place, and I lived up in the. We had lots of kids and stuff, we used to have a bike parade, they'd all bring the bikes over to my garage, decorate them up for them,
Yeah, no, it was something that popped into my head when I've seen the trailer. And I'm thinking, cool. Lori, we missed you by accident, so. Communication.
and I was away and I did not submit a report. And just trying to keep up on all the activities that are going on in town. Our job closed. Applications closed yesterday, so in the process of reviewing applications and take a look at interviews and over the course of the next couple of weeks. Yeah, so you got lots of applications. I got some good ones. Yeah. No. I did, got some really good ones. So it could be a tough one.
Bruce, but part-time.
Anything for Kevin's report, Kim, that
No, I think, from Parkside, everything's going along really well. I don't want to jinx anything. Spray Park's been working great. Haven't had any, mechanical breakdowns, knock on wood. School's been to, lessons. So it's busy place around there. So no, everything's been going really well there, so.
Well, right after our barbecue or breakfast on Friday, there was a couple of seniors up their wheelchairs not on the park. They fell off of the edge of the asphalt. And if we weren't there, the one senior would be injured. I don't know how long, but there's a drop off on they're wondering what they could get done.
Yeah, no, it's on our list, Councilor Thorough, it's on our list. We gotta finish the landscaping on the edges.
Yeah, because the one there was a little bit more serious. It's like there's a couple of us around to help her up, but
Okay.
the other one he got out, but it was just something pulled over.
Okay, yeah, no, it is on our list to
Yeah.
do, so.
Regarding comments about needles and stuff in the park and such. From my understanding, there is a crew that goes through the park in the morning.
Not necessarily Councilor Bowden, but we did experience needles in the park. Knock on wood, I talked to Kevin about it today. It's been good. They haven't seen very many. If they've seen any, it's been very rare. We had a couple of calls last week from residents who found them in their back lane, and so as soon as they contact us, we contact Kevin. And Kevin, we did buy the sharks kits and everything, so Kevin goes up, right, knows what he's doing and is trying to deal with them and clean them up as soon as they happen. But we did have a couple calls last week just on, I don't know if you want to call it public or private property, just kind of in the alleys. So as soon as we're aware of them, we don't patrol the alleys looking for them, but if someone calls to say they spotted some and they call us, we'll go and deal with it as soon as we can, so.
Okay.
But it has been better, knock on wood, it has been good in the parks. I think that's partly because there's activity there, there's people around. But in the spring, we definitely found some.
And that's.
Mr. Olson?
I have nothing further to add. I already questions.
He was just. testing you.
Actually, it's funny because I've spoken to this like 4 times, because you know, my computer literacy is about this much. So,
No, I
so
was,
what the hell are you doing?
I was on vacation. I took a week off and missed the deadline. So just to give you some update while I was gone, the boys are busy. They have been, I've got a guy off, sometimes 2 with holidays throughout the weeks here now. But they hung banners. We've been working with St. Clair. They had a couple sewer digs, so on private property. So we had to meet up with them and we helped them hydrovac down and put new curb stops and tie on that. So they were busy doing that. We're this close to being done our sewer flushing. It's taken us some time with some breakdowns and stuff, but they've been working on that. Unfortunately, we've been fairly busy at the cemetery. Graves and cremations and the columbariums. So we've been out there lots. Some good news, I was in discussion with Ross Cole on Monday morning. They have, Special Areas has reached out, they are planning to gravel and put some dust control on South Municipal Road for us. It's a new product, it's not calcium. It actually hardens up fairly well, it doesn't get as greasy when it's wet.
That's the civil stuff, correct?
No, this is a totally different,
Okay.
it's a darker
Yeah,
stuff
I
too.
actually drove to civil to see what they did, so.
There's no millings in this.
Okay.
They've been waiting for the crew to get ready, but apparently Ross says if everything goes right, they're hoping to be here Thursday or Friday. If not, they'll be here early next week. So what that will entail is the gravel trucks will come in, they'll gravel the road the day before. I believe Councillor Thorough gets to shape the road first. They'll gravel it and then they'll put the material on top of it. And again, it's something they're doing for us in kind. I haven't heard
What the kind is.
what the
What the
kind
kind
is.
is.
I don't believe it's a trial purpose because they said they would try to do some for us.
Well, actually, the piece they did in front of my shop down to the tourist information, for the most part, is held up pretty well. There's a few little blips here and there, but that is actually worked out not bad.
And I have talked to Sean about that. They are bringing the milling crew up here too, so we're hoping we'll be able to mill that and maybe add some product to it and then relay that out as well to get, because it is getting pretty choppy. So,
And I'm okay with that.
and yeah, it does slow people down, but we're waiting on Special Areas because they have the knowledge and the bigger equipment and the right price if we wait for them. So sometimes it seems like we're not doing anything, but we're just kind of.
So you have natural rumble strips right now is what you have, so kind of slows,
Strategically baseball goals. Oh,
Yeah, strategically.
Yeah.
right, it slows them down.
Yeah.
So
I had a lot of fun there at the booth there today.
yeah, so that's where we're at. I'm just catching back up to speed. I've had lots of guys popping in, seeing these people.
The banners look great.
Yeah.
Really notice them.
Lori, we're 3 short, but we don't want to order anymore because if we do get the downtown vitalization, then the different life goals. So we don't want to jump the gun.
It might be a little different size banner that would be required. So, yeah, the new ones, well, if you like looking at Jay Smith, then.
I just think you notice it. It's, for the downtown floor, it's something different.
Yeah, it
You
does.
really notice that
Yeah.
when you first come in.
So we're doing that, and we are gonna have a bit of a issue with Mr. Greenslade is not taking concrete anymore. So when our sidewalk program comes in, we're gonna have to putting the cost of trucking it all the way to Youngstown, whether it's one of our trucks, but there'll still be more of a cost to do that. So we'll see what that's gonna be like when we get there.
So you can't crush.
Well, it's too expensive to crush. We have all that. We still have all the asphalt I'd like to crush. Last time we had a quote, I think it was upwards of $600,000.
You guys have been filling those too.
Yeah, we did order some more cold mix and we've been doing that as we can as they're popping up. It's kind of tough with all the business with Somerville and everybody running around. We do have the contractors to paint our perimeter too, but until they're done tracking it up with mud, we just.
Yeah.
We're waiting for that as well.
It's been a question for Director Armstrong. Yes. Is there any more discussion or well, I guess you've been on all of this, if there's any more discussion about the entrance way, maybe having one of the signs, the former Hanna signs that have Nickelback on them, sort of.
Well, we
Therefore-
discussed during the signage program about putting that on the west entrance message center
Yeah,
sign when
yeah.
it wasn't replaced.
Yeah.
We received some preliminary information from the signage company. It's the ball is in my court now to get back to them and tell them what we want.
Okay.
But just for, I meant to do this during my report too. I just want to make sure that we're on the same page in regards to having something on the west entrance sign, the former electronic sign that says home of Nickelback. That's kind
Something
of
similar to what was on
the old
highway
signs.
signs
Yeah.
that acknowledge whoever else. is
No,
on it
just
as
the,
well.
the only sign, and it
It's
was
like
a little
proud to be the
confusing.
home of Nickelback is
Yeah.
what it said.
It only said home of Nickelback. The Photoshop picture that they gave to Lanny, they Photoshopped home of Lennon film onto that sign. So I know it confused a lot of people who then thought we had that on ours. But we didn't, it just was home of Nickelback, so. We would like to, that's the direction we're moving forward, is to have something there that people will recognize from the highway if they want to pull off and get a picture. It's a safer
Yeah,
place to do that as well, so.
All the dumps and gravel in there too, right?
but it wouldn't be
Wasn't meant to be a
electronic.
We will make it one.
Don't see the point. Also,
Yeah,
we had
exactly.
an electronic sign there a few months ago, so I'm not.
Well, that's what I was wanting to confirm. and
The
such,
upper
that
part,
makes sense.
the upper part still is lit, it's just, it's some repair.
Okay, so we'll get more update on that
Yeah.
as things progress and stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, it will come back to.
I had some people positive about seeing that happen. That'd be great.
Okay. Motion to leave, let me get back up here. Motion to accept senior administrative official reports 8.01 to 8.03 as presented for information. Help the vote in favor. Carried. 9.01. Business items, second quarter fire report.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. As you can see from the stats in your package, second quarter was very comparable to last year's second quarter. We had 36 incidents this year compared to 37 last year. I went back and checked, our 5-year average is 29 calls for the second quarter, so we're still pushing quite above average. And currently we're on pace to have about our second busiest year ever again, just under 2021, and things continue to track the way they are. Membership update, as we talked earlier, we're currently full at 30 members with the newest member joining in May. So our recruitment retention hasn't been much of an issue, but I'm sure our day will come someday. Training update, in May, we wrapped up a class of NFPA 1001 Firefighter 1 basic firefighting students. It was a regional class that had 27 students, including 5 from the Hanna department, which gets us to 29 of our 30 members that are trained to the NFPA 1001 Firefighter 1 level. So that does feel very rewarding to see all the hard work and dedication put into training start to pay off. And a lot of it's the actual training tower and site has made that available to us to be able to do that. So we're close. We're one guy short because he couldn't take the training last time was offered due to a prior commitment, so I'm hoping that we get that one guy in the next course. Training site, which leads into my next topic. The next phase of the training field, we've ordered the flammable liquid outdoor props. Plan to have them in place later this fall and hopefully host our first ever 1001 firefighter 2 course this fall or early next spring. And then, of course, our next training goal will be to train the entire 30 members to the firefighter 2 level over the next few years, and it will take probably 2 or 3 years to get everybody there. Other news, most of you already know that our fire fit team competed in June in Regina and came home with 9 medals in several different categories. And one member also competed in Strathcona a week earlier and brought home 2 medals from that competition. In personal news regarding the Alberta Fire Chiefs Association, I was appointed to the executive of the AFCA as the second vice president at our June board meeting, so taking on a bit of a new role there. And we'll be changing some of my other duties within the region because of that. Any questions?
Dave, just can you elaborate a little bit on the 1001 training, how many hours it is? It's not just a weekend course or a day course, just kind of give a little more in-depth. Time is committed to that 1001 course?
Lots. They have the students register, we register them into an online learning platform. They have to read the chapters ahead of time. They have to do online quizzes. We can see how they're doing on those quizzes. We can see that they're completing that step. So we know that they're not just leaving it for the last minute. Then we do 5 weekends of Friday nights, all day Saturday, all day Sunday. So on those 2 weekends, we're doing about 19 to 20 hours worth of training. We review usually on Friday nights the theory that they were supposed to have read, and then go through and do practical evolutions on the Saturday and Sunday. The last Sunday in May was their test date, and they have to do practical testing and then a 100 question test, written test that they have 2 hours to do to pass the written portion. So there's a lot to it. Years ago, and this would go to Danny and Fred in the room, they we used to take weekend courses, do 2 weekends back to back. That gave you 1 course. You needed about 12 of them to get your entire level. So when we say we're training the firefighter 1, it is what used to be for the old guys, firefighter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, as well as some other courses mixed in there. So it's quite extensive.
At point of a million, so I was at the very beginning of the
Start of that.
1001,
Yeah. And it's been there for years. We changed how we do it, and so is Vermilion now. And you won't find any departments in the province training to those S courses or weekend courses now.
Yeah.
Everybody's training to the level. The bonus part of the level is if you leave here and go somewhere else, you're training, they recognize it and it works the other way. We have Bernie Fay with Adco Electric come join the fire department. He had that firefighter 1 training in Forestburg. So all we had to do was get his certificates from him. We don't question it. It's good to go. So he's one of our trained firefighters. Shelley Laughlin's working in town now. She's joined. Same thing. She has that training through Youngstown Fire Department. So when she's available during the day to come from work, we have that trained members, you know, that's why we're so high right now too. Some of our most recent newest members already had some basic training too. So.
So is this within the province then, or just?
No,
within your
North
region?
America. NFPA is National Fire Protection Association. It's recognized North America wide. That's the bonus of it.
It used to be 6 days and they were 8 to 10 hour days.
And that would be for what is equivalent to about 2 chapters of this.
Yeah.
4 chapters.
Wow.
Yeah. So no, our level is way higher now than what we were even 10 years ago. You back up the clock even 6 years ago, what would there have been, Brent? 5, 6 of us that had it, maybe 5.
So could this take a person to urban center?
Yeah, let's not tell them that though.
Yeah.
I lose enough to urban fire departments over the last 20 years. We've actually got a lot of guys that are sitting on full-time fire departments right now that started here. As a volunteer, caught the bug, so to speak, and went on and did it. Some went to Vermilion, took their training, went into full-time. Some just got hired by the cities. Unfortunately, if you get on the city department, they're still going to retrain you. to their program. That's just the way it is. They don't care how many years you were in the volunteer service. They want to run you through there. And even if you leave a large city department to another city department, they're gonna make you go through the same training. So that cover what you want?
Yeah, I just wanted council to be aware that it's an extensive process, so a lot of time and commitment from those volunteers to take that training.
And a lot from the instructors. Our guys come back and help. It takes more than 2 or 3 of us to put on a course. It takes a whole team to put on a course, especially this last one. Normal class size is 24. And we took on 27 because they registered so fast that by the time we did our numbers, we were sitting at 30. So we didn't want to say no to anybody, so we gave it a run. Next class won't be over 24. It's just too tough doing that big of a class. Any other questions?
Very good. Your thoughts?
Yes, so when they're back in town, hopefully they straighten up again.
Yep, I'm not worried. I know where they're at.
They didn't know. That's what they told us.
Emergency management
We
report.
need a motion.
Oh, sorry. Motion to accept,
I'll make that motion, Mr. Van.
Council Warwick, all in favor? Carried. Emergency management report.
Got anyone next?
No, development permit. next.
Development Department, sorry. I put check mark again and then.
Alrighty, same thing, stats are there. We had 23 development permits in the second quarter. Last year was 19. So we're sitting at a total of 34 at the end of June. Last year, we were sitting at 27. Seems to be up a little bit, but do more home occupations, a lot of fences. So I will be happy when the land use bylaw, if it passes through, it'll change some of this and won't maybe spend as much time on fences and home occupations, but we did have a substantial building one come in today that it just glanced at briefly. So it's nice to see some new houses being built and things going on. So
Yeah, I was gonna point that out. I know, in the first quarter, we had a house, there. In second quarter, we have a new house construction, and now this will be classified, the one that David got today as in the third quarter, but that's three new homes, all single family, being built, which is excellent to see.
and one of your first quarter, there was an edit made on the first quarter because there'd been a substantial permit put in and then it had been asked to be withdrawn temporarily while they waited for zoning. So number 9 came back into play, which was 350,000. That wouldn't have been in your first quarter report when you've seen it because it had been asked to be put on hold. But I kept the same number and went back to the files.
Commercial.
No, that was residential up on the old lodge property. On the single resident you see being built at the end of the duplexes. Yeah, that one went back in there. So a rather good bump financially for the first quarter. That's just what it was. But
Yeah, and the other development permit that was submitted today is for our first new house in Fielding Place. So
yes, which I think will start that. It seems like somebody's got to take the bite the bullet and be the first one to build in an area, and then maybe others will start to go on it, right? But so overall, it's positive mood out there for development. Any questions?
None?
We're trying to find.
What's that?
No, I'm sorry. I'll make the motion. Mr. Mayor.
Okay, motion, Council Warwick, all in favor? Carried. Next. Emergency management report.
All righty, not a lot to report for second quarter, just following all the stuff going on in the province, both from an emergency management lens and a fire chief lens, just kind of watching all the different things. If I didn't own a business and was semi-retired, I would have loved to gone up north and played an EM role in some of those. They were looking for different people to work off operations centers and different jobs. So it would have been nice to go get that experience, but it is a 14-day commitment, which is very hard to do. The other point is we did have our regional open house in May for emergency preparedness and fire, kind of combined between the town of Hanna and special areas and fire and emergency management. Really appreciate the work that went into it by our office, Lori in particular, and Ruth working with get the advertising out there, Michelle working with it from a emergency social services side, and then the special areas team of people over there that really worked hard on the advertising and everything else. I think it was we do a regional focus with special areas. We have a regional emergency plan, regional approach to disaster services. And I think this really showed the power that's in the region if we want to work together, split up the workload and do things. So it was a good event. Heard nothing but positive feedback. Yeah, you liked it? Good. I mean, it's not something we're gonna do every year, because otherwise I think they become too mundane. But it's something that special areas will probably be doing every year, whether they go to concert next and point the year after. But I'd sure like to see it 3 to 5 years where we bring it back and do it again. And I think the wildfires at the time helped spur it on because everybody was thinking about it. Yeah, there's a, people are starting to look and go, oh, gee, towns can burn. And I sure do get a lot more calls these days on backyard fires, as far as just not that they're happening right now, but they have a pit like that could get away. Concern over fire seems to be at a higher rate. So any questions from an EM point of view?
All here. Very. Future business on.
No, one more.
Guess you had it, sorry. Tracy's out there, just slipped out fire.
I could just leave them.
Well, it says it's the second quarter report, but as you know, I was away in training for the first, and it was probably briefly delivered by the CAO. I'll just touch on the last 6 months here and what I've been up to. Just working on development and implementation, getting organized, going through and updating documents and setting up. So a large portion of this last 6 months was spent with me away in training from March 17th until May 29th. And now that I am back, I am qualified to apply for appointment as a community peace officer, with the exception of I have to complete 2 scenarios because I'm injured, unfortunately. That will come. It's going to be an equivalent of like an hour's worth of time. So I'm not concerned about that at all. The injury has kept me from my own personal interest of engaging directly with people and doing door knocking and getting that face-to-face contact. So it has been a little bit of a challenge that I've been dealing with. Some of the highlights that I have noted on here are that I have developed a process for on-site leads. It has a little bit of extra effort involved, which already extends a long process. However, it is designed to reach compliance through education and community engagement. A lot of the process involved here is following the Municipal Government Act. I've implemented just what I will call an introductory soft letter, and I just refer to the bylaw and the 7 days. And then I give them a little bit of information, let them know that I'm available to assist them through the process, and give them contact information and invite them to comply within that 7-day period. Received a lot of compliance from that letter, which I'm happy to have seen. Step 2, there was probably, I would say probably 7 out of the 34 proactive on-site leave letters that I issued in the month of June went to the municipal government step 2 because they failed to either comply with the letter or even reach out and contact me and let me know that they intended to do anything to resolve it. So with the intention to resolve, I would include that part of the step as compliance and work with the residents to reach compliance. Step 3 would be a remedial order. And this document is very detailed and time consuming. You literally have to attend to the property and break down exactly what you want to be removed. So for instance, a row of fencing that's located on the east side of the yard underneath the left window. Very detailed. So it is a time consuming process that is part of the court procedure. So it is a required step in the process. At that point, I would say that that would be the third attempt to gain compliance before there's any enforcement action taken. And by enforcement action, what I am referring to is the notice of entry, the MGA notice of entry and enforcement. And this would be where I would hire a contractor to do the work of the city, and we would set a date, attend the property, and have that work completed, and then it would be put through the taxation process. So that's step 4, and that's the final step. And that is the step that we would like to not have happen. And I did actually go out this morning because the step 2s have come due today and tomorrow. And I had an opportunity to look at all the properties who were issued the MGA orders. And I do not believe, I believe there's only 4 that will have to move. That's unconfirmed, but I can update you all. If you require. I have some stats here available. Me being away from training did affect the stats for the 3 months period or the 11 weeks period here. I was able to increase my proactive patrols for the summertime. Some of the complaints you will see appear, they were complaints received about some locations. So I'd already had a proactive file going, and they had received those, or they had submitted those complaints. I am in the process of trying to reach out to everyone and update them about the process, educate everybody about the process. It's a lengthy conversation to have, and it's definitely something that I'm going to have to continue to educate everyone on. A lot of people don't understand why it has to take this long, and it's one of those non-visible issues that I face in my job where it appears that nothing's happening until we reach the stage of cleanup or we reach the stage of compliance. So
About 28 days.
it can be, and then you add in the fact that I have a part-time position and the days off. It can get lengthy, which is why I've really focused on the bulk of our more important properties being our neglected properties that are either abandoned or vacant or unoccupied that do get quite out of control.
And are those properties more repeats?
They are repeats. I've done 2 patrols, which doesn't sound like much, but out of those patrols, I produce a good probably 15 locations, and then have to go back to the office and do all the required paperwork. And those properties I'm already noticing today. I did a few extra patrols for my next round of unsightly, and they are repeat offenders largely. Yeah.
And I think, Tracy, correct me if I'm wrong, the 4 or 5, whatever the number it is that we will be bringing a contractor in to do are all repeat.
They're all repeat offenders,
And
and
they're vacant properties, not living.
yeah, they're vacant, and a lot of the people that I am dealing with are also people who actually don't even live here. Or people who own property, don't live here and rent it out. And I don't know how much regular contact is going on between the tenant and the property owner and in regards to maintenance. So I'm trying to send that first letter that I send out to the actual owner of the property and have them communicate with their tenants what needs to be done. And then if it continues from there, It goes right to the house, and then I make a phone call and advise them that there's still no compliance.
Yeah, because really it's the property owner's responsibility, not necessarily the tenant.
It is, and if the tenant fails to comply with anything and the property owner has no idea that this is taking place, then it's even more of a challenge and it delays the process even further.
Yeah.
Some people, the biggest difficulty I'm having is that people are not interested in answering their phones anymore.
Right.
A lot of them don't even listen to their voicemails. Or yes, yeah, a lot of people honestly don't even answer the doors anymore, which is also a challenge. There are also issues of tax information when it transfers titles, the phone number's not there, so we don't have it in our system for us to pick up the phone and make that initial phone call. So the letter has to go out, and when it goes out through the mail system under the NGA Act, it actually has to go registered. And it has a time frame of 14 days, so there's a lot of legal process involved that is a huge disruption in trying to achieve a resolution in a short amount of time. Yeah.
Casey, just a question on the parking violations. Is it trailer parking? Is it vehicles left for too long? Can I ask, some specifics on that, or what would the violations be there?
Parking
Yeah.
issues, in what reference, like the stats or?
Yeah, just in your stat, yeah.
There's a couple abandoned vehicle complaints. I'm glad you brought that up, actually. I was gonna mention the process, and I did receive an anonymous letter, and it was typed out and it was spaced largely, and it almost looked like a ransom note. There was highlights in it. And it's very challenging to deal with these types of situations when people are not giving me the proper information in order to follow up and update them on why those vehicles may still be there. Right now, I think I highlighted in the process here, and you can review this at a later date if you like, or at a later time, but some of the application process to obtain community peace officer status and the authorized employer status will hinder some of the ability to take care of the parking complaints proactively and as they come in. Trailers, for the most part, the access to information, if I could be able to run a license plate, get a phone number, make a quick phone call, a lot easier to deal with, but because I don't have access to that information, because I'm waiting for the setup of the authorized employer application and also the peace officer application to go through. Yeah, there's some challenges there.
Thank you.
Yeah, like 3 weeks to process, try and locate somebody.
Sorry?
Like, I've seen vehicles that are parked around town, been there for 3 weeks.
But we don't, Counselor Crowe, we don't go after vehicles that are just parked on the street.
No, trailer, motorhome.
Trailers, when we identify them, yeah.
So
They're only have 48 hours.
He's gonna park the trailer in there, maybe front parking spot and get away with it.
Well, yeah. So we're working on that process.
It's been like that for the last 35 years.
Well, we've had one challenge and we've got it rectified, trailer wise, but they pop up every other day. There's a different trailer in a different spot. So the one thing that I wanted to reiterate to council too is if you are hearing from residents about concerns about whether it's property, whether it's a trailer, whether it's a vehicle, please refer them to the complaint form. So they can come into the office, pick one up, they can go online, pick one up, then we get all the information on the issue, who it's from, who the complaint is, and what it's about. And it's just, those are our priorities when we get the complaints.
I don't know why you'd have to rely on a complaint. You can drive around this town and you can see 45 different lots that are a mess.
No, we've done proactive. You can see the proactive ones we've done. Not in the stats.
I'll tell you, a good one is the one over here with Central Meat.
Yeah, we've talked to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're in that process, but again, it's private property. So we can't, people think we have the ability to just go in and deal with it. We can't legally go in and deal with it unless we follow the requirements in the municipal government act. If we go in there and clean it up ourselves, we're not gonna get any money from anybody or be able to put that work back on their taxes. or they pay. So,
You're trespassing until you get the right paperwork in.
no, that's right. We can be considered trespassing. I know it's frustrating. And the other frustrating part on site leagues is you can't necessarily, even though they may be repeat, you can't necessarily anticipate in a week and a half from now, the grass is gonna be bad. You have to wait till it gets to that point and then start the process. So if we don't follow the MGA, we can be in trouble from the owner's side. And that's the problem. It's not, we just can't walk in and go on somebody's property and clean it up.
If I may,
Yeah,
it's the same, especially with vehicles, especially when they're parked on the public roadway. I cannot legally remove a vehicle from the street without the proper information, confirmation, and the legal authority to do it. Currently, as a municipal enforcement officer for the town of Hanna, in order for a vehicle to be towed off of the street, I need to be an appointed community peace officer with authority under the Traffic Safety Act to tow a vehicle. So this is a very important process and step in achieving the goals of the position. And it is directly related to the changes from the Public Security Peace Officer program with the province of Alberta. And those changes came into place January 1st. And it's something that is very important, and I did include it in detail in the information package here for everyone to review, so you understand. Being able to address complaints through proper legal avenues is something that needs to be adhered to, and I also am not able to obtain information that I need until that step is achieved.
whenever we drop that, I mean, you can still go to the RCMP and have it with somebody.
Yes, so right now, the RCMP are supportive and are willing to work in partnership with me until all of the process is completed.
You do have, I'm just saying you have an avenue.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any other questions, Trace?
Yeah, just a couple comments. It was nice to have a good report, lots of information. Appreciate that, Tracy. As I go through what's required, I like the training. We've given you some knowledge and some skills for that. The onus on municipality for CPO is more intense than I realized. Outfitting of the vehicle, the MRF costs, the radios. I don't know, you say the spare. This fire department has a spare one that you just get to have and keep.
There is, there's just an opportunity to pursue these avenues, and these are more futuristic as things expand.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it just kind of felt as I went through this, what needs to be done and what, whether you've done or kids move forward with it. In my opinion, the town has a need for a bylaw officer, absolutely. And a lot of work done on that program as you've identified with, enforcing bylaws and just being out in the community. Right now, I don't see the community has a need for a peace officer, in my mind. And it just seemed like a lot going on first. I'd really like to spend some time getting bylaw enforcement on the right track. Because it certainly needs that. And you're right, just knocking on doors and just being out in the public, seeing the truck around with all the decals on it again and get everything out before we go through all the stuff, the vests and the training you'll require for the baton and the spray. I assume that have to be recertified every couple of years.
It does. It's all part of the training that the town already sent me on and paid for.
Yeah.
It's a process that definitely needs more education. And I'm happy to explain and educate everybody on all of these topics because it is a large component. The changes in the ability for a bylaw officer to do their job is pretty impacting on small communities now. So it would depend on what you're interested in understanding is not obtainable. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So basically parking violations would be not able to be pursued within an effective time frame. Because there's no access to information, there's no ability to follow that complaint through from start to finish, because there's no legal avenue to obtain the information required or to actually complete the task.
It's like with MRF, I assume, start a file, start to document evidence, then, you know, vehicle's been there for 3 days, abandoned, then with a good partnership with RCMP, they would be able to carry on from that for their enforcement.
I can't answer for the RCMP in regards to their ability to take over municipal bylaw enforcement. What you're seeing in Alberta is peace officers are coming in because the RCMP are taking care of police matters. And while municipal enforcement and peace officers handle municipal bylaw investigations. and
But
public-
that vehicle still falls under it.
It does, yeah, it does. Falls under RCMP, I guess they have the legal authority under the Traffic Safety Act to deal with it as well.
Yeah, I guess I just hope we're moving forward with bylaw first and foremost, and then CPO stuff, if that's.
Yeah,
the
it's-
direction later.
It's, yes, all of my stats here are all related to bylaw enforcement, yeah.
And I love stats, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Move to accept the reports for them. Counselor Farrell. All in favor? Carried. Future business up.
So, Mr. Mayor, you guys are probably tired of talking about this building. I think it's been 2 or 3 meetings, we've had the discussion, so. So back in May, at our info session, the consensus was that, we were gonna move forward as was. We had the Chamber of Commerce, we had the Harvest Sky, and we had Business Links renting office space, in the facility. And we were gonna revisit it at, budget time for 2024 in terms of whether we wanted to continue to, be in the landlord business and rent, or if council wishes to sell the property. So since then, Harvest Sky and business, or the Business Link have found different home and have terminated their lease, leaving just the Chamber of Commerce as the only entity in the building. And their ability to pay and what they pay certainly is not gonna carry the load of the costs of the building. So I guess administration is recommending that we have the property listed for sale or lease. There was another business that wanted to lease. I don't know, at this point, we would be looking more for a single lease than multiple leases, but kind of changed here, and it's been almost just over a month since we talked about it and decided to leave things until budget time. But now with those changes, I think it's the time to act is now. If council wishes to sell the building, the assessed value of the property is $157,750. Speaking with Mr. Wallace, he did some comparison of different buildings that have sold in the last year or two in the downtown. There's generally not a lot of movement there, and he's suggested that he would list the property at $159,900. So, but we'd be prepared to answer any questions or concerns, options, Councilman.
Actually, I am a little disappointed with the Harvest Sky board. I was at the meeting until noon when I had to come to MPC for a meeting as well, and the vote was done in my absence. I'm not in favor of selling it. Just the fact that in 2018, CCTI invested a substantial amount or that money a substantial amount of CCTI funding was given to Hanna Learning Center to renovate it and my understanding, the premise of it being a business incubator to support small business. And then 3 years after the contract, there's no money available and that sort of thing. I just think that it just kind of leaves a sour taste in my mouth, is that was CCTI funds that was to support business, and now we're looking at selling the property at the same value as it was obtained by the town in 2018. And I don't know, I just it seems really unusual. I was surprised to see the comments in the package when I read it. And yeah, I'm just a little disappointed in how things were handled. Whether it would have made a difference or not, I don't know. And as I had discussed this with Mr. Neal as well, yeah, we did throw the chamber under the bus. You know, whether or not it is would be financially feasible, I don't know. I like the idea of at least of giving it an option to see if there are some small businesses that would be interested in renting space until the end of the year, as was discussed in a previous meeting. So the fact that there's been a push to sell it, I just think there's something else going on, and I just don't like the whole premise of it.
Mr. Mayor, I was at that meeting, so just to confirm, we did not underhandedly wait till Sandra or anybody else was absent from the meeting.
Well, I never said that.
I just want to clarify
Yeah, I never
that
said
it was a
that.
process of order, and the motion was put on the table and it passed unanimously.
Yeah, and
So-
it was put on the table after I left. So I just am a little disappointed that, you know, I think I had expressed that I was going to another meeting and people had said, you know, we're going to be voting on this, just hang on a minute or something. At least then I'd at least been able to be involved in the decision making. So I think it was a little bit premature in my opinion, especially when we had made a decision and had agreed to have an opportunity to have others in the community to the opportunity to maybe rent the space. And yeah, I'm just a little disappointed. Anyways, that's all.
But ultimately, even if we do list it for sale or lease, that is still a viable option. Someone comes in and wants to rent or lease from us.
I guess the concern I have, Mr. Mayor, if someone wanted to come in and lease the entire building.
Yeah.
From us, certainly would be open to that.
Let alone
Yeah, I don't know if we want to get into
month to month.
leasing or even leasing one office out of the 4, hoping that we get another one and get another one. But if someone did come and say they wanted to lease the entire building, we certainly would be open to that.
I guess when the initial application for that funding was out, you know, the fact that it was for small business, to be able to help develop their business entity down Main Street in a good location where people could see them and that sort of thing. I think the purpose was not followed through on. And this is my own bias, but that is what I am gathering or what I feel, and I just don't feel that money was utilized properly with the intent of the grant application for the CCTI funds.
Any more discussion?
The hub was never really accepted to start with, like,
Well, the hub was a bad spot if there was no control, like with COVID and everything. I mean, it made it very awkward for it to function the way it was probably designed to function.
And I don't know that it was completely put out there in public
Well,
clearly enough that it was to support.
There was no progress ever shown or anything, I mean, what did they do in the last 4 years or 5 years that they've been there?
Well, as a small business owner, I can tell you that one of the biggest concerns was the costs were outrageous and I couldn't afford any services in the business hub. Absolutely any of them, from copying to typing to advertisement. The prices were absolutely astronomical, so I couldn't afford it. And if I couldn't afford it, then anybody who was a small business couldn't afford it and they were not busy. So the premise failed. And once it fails, you move on. That's it. You sell the building and you move on. Let someone else have, whether they lease it or buy it. It's a beautiful building. It's nicely laid out. And just move on. But kicking a dead horse is good. It's done. They're all done.
Wages, they ate most of that place up. You know, what I mean, it was ridiculous, the amount of money that they were getting paid and the work they were doing.
Yeah, we're getting very derailed. I don't understand that. Going over their business plan, so whatever didn't work.
Done.
I'm happy to say that they tried, the building has been improved. And I totally support selling or a full lease of it. This isn't, the purpose of the building was what it was tried, and now purpose has got to change, and hopefully somebody will find something better for it. Todd probably knows better than me, but I feel that value is low
Yeah,
for the investment.
Yeah, that's what he had suggested based on comparators of the properties that sold, one being relatively similar, the Tacklebury building. Same size, sold for
He does know real estate better.
considerably less than that, but there again, not a huge demand for it, and like I said, the comparators in the downtown are over a couple of year period.
So I'd rather have it gone than an extra $15,000.
Mr. Wallace will remind you that he is the president of the Alberta Real Estate
Oh, he
Association.
reminds me what it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
He reminds me.
With the posters and- So I guess, we had her throw a cat, recommended motion to the chief CAO, have the town owned property going from the north business hub. 203 Second Avenue West, be listed for sale and lease. Motion, Councilor Warwick. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Oh.
Still carried. This whole library.
All right, Mr. Mayor, this is a form that apparently gets renewed on occasions. One of our policies, we're going through all the policies. I unfortunately did not attend this particular meeting because I had a meeting conflict. So I was not able to attend, but from what I understand, it's just minor edits that were changed on it.
So, yeah, Council Murphy, I went through the last one and to this one, and the only thing that I could see that was different in the two is that you've increased the laminating fees in Schedule B from 75 cents a page to $1 a page. That was all that I could see was different.
That's it.
Okay.
7 pages for that.
No, the rest is the entire policy. Yeah. But
That
I
was
had
the
to
only
check.
change, that was the only change I could see between the one that was presented to council 2 years prior.
So that's why it's here. And if we can please approve that, that would be wonderful. So we can continue. All the policies, we have created policies. There's so many that are just fabulous. This is the one in particular. It said to do with the fees that had to come to council. So
Motion the council accepting the school library board safety and use bylaw as amended.
I would like to motion that,
Councilor
Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
All in favor? Carried.
Okay.
I have a question. Councilor Murphy, do you know if, and I've probably asked this before, if they are ever going to bring volunteers back
They already have.
to the level that they were prior to
Any volunteers who are interested, we now have policies to not only protect the volunteers, but protect the library from some volunteers. There's always a delicate balance, so as to protect the volunteers as well. So we have a really good volunteer policy now. And I'm aware there are some that are in, and anybody who's interested in volunteering at the library can contact our director, Jen, and she will help them with the paperwork.
So what are volunteers allowed to do? Just file.
I'm sorry, that's such a vague question. I
Yeah,
can't-
like a lot of the small town libraries survived through volunteers who were involved in doing all aspects of the work involved in the library system, and they passed their checks through the RCMP checks, all the other requirements that
Yeah.
were, and they are not allowed to do anything but file those.
Okay, what they're not allowed to do is replace employees. They are not a cash saving measure by, instead of hiring Bobby for 20 hours a week, we'll just bring in Jan because she's a volunteer to do Bobby's work.
Yeah,
That's a violation
yeah.
of the Alberta Employment Standards
Mhm.
Code. And Marigold, which is basically the umbrella for which Hanna Municipal Library is under, has specifically said that you have to be very careful, as well as when an employee logs in, they're logging in to addresses, phone numbers, very private information about the client base. And having a volunteer just randomly start looking up is not appropriate. So we have specifically said that volunteers will do the following items. I'm not going to list them, but no volunteer should be doing the work of an employee. So
Yeah.
making that a clear, distinct line is extremely important. Because if not, funding will change. So we don't need to give them more money. They can just bring in more volunteers. That's not how a library works. And libraries need proper training of employees and proper training of volunteers, and ensuring the volunteers know their place. And keep it separate. That's very
Yeah.
important. That has been an issue with the Hanna Municipal Library.
Well, and I think there are volunteers that have worked over 20 years in the library.
Volunteering, yeah.
They know their place. They want to do more, and they're not allowed to do more. And they are not. They sign all the paperwork that everybody else signs, or searches and checks and everything that employees could be doing, searching through stuff inappropriately as well. So it's not just volunteers that are doing that, it's also employees that could be doing that.
No, probably not. We hire based on ethics. And ensuring that they understand the Alberta Employment Standards Codes.
Yeah, I'm aware of all that.
I
Okay.
do believe,
But-
sorry,
That's a word.
Councilor Murphy, I do believe was there some legislation or something brought through the Libraries Act in terms of volunteers? And I know that was one of the concerns I know that you identified in terms of their access to privacy information.
Yeah.
I believe the Alberta Libraries Division of the government was not supportive of that. It did not want to see that happen. So in terms of volunteers, I think that's certainly one area where maybe someone has volunteered under the
Yeah.
old system and was able to access all of that.
It is.
And
It's
now they're told they
frustrating. Yeah.
can't, and they're probably frustrated.
And they are. And I appreciate that. And having people who have 20 years in the same is wonderful. But it has been an issue in the past with a volunteer literally doing grant applications, which is the director's position. There's been a whole gamut, and they're going, but I'm good at it. Well, that's wonderful. Then get your certification and apply for the position. But as a volunteer, it's a delicate balance between the two. And it's also frustrating if we have a volunteer who is not willing to accept the fact that they can't do that anymore. That's it. We have regulations we have to follow. And So in some cases, they can't come back if it's going to be a constant problem. But we do have some that are there, they're doing great, and if others have an issue with the fact that they can no longer do that work, there's nothing we can do about it, right? It's just.
But ultimately with grant application also,
Hmm.
there's some people that have a definite knack or gift, for lack of a better
Yeah.
term. Of how to write, you know, I would be totally foobarred at writing a grant application. I know several people that I would ask to do it for me, so, is it wrong to take advantage of someone that has that?
Mr. Mayor, when it comes to the volunteers, it is. What you have to do is we have a board of directors, very talented group, incredibly diverse backgrounds. And the director knows to come to our board, attends every meeting. Are you having any issues? I'm struggling with this one.
Okay.
Jan's gonna help with that one, and that's what they do
Okay.
instead of having the volunteers, because the volunteers are now having access to too much information that is private and privileged. And they are not under the same confidentiality umbrella that the rest of the staff are.
Okay, and that's fine. I was just throwing out, 'cause like I said, when it comes to writing a grant, I am proposing this is.
And excuse me, I'd like to apologize to Councilor Murphy for cutting off.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah, and I think that is half of it, is that they have an ownership to the sense that
Yeah.
they were dedicated, they did.
They bought in and sweat equity.
Yeah, and they just
Good
want
change.
to contribute more than what they're allowed to, and I think it is frustration more so. than others.
And
It's
it's,
like our job site, I mean, same thing, like we've done things forever and now we can't do them
Yeah.
and people are frustrated, so.
and it's also just like with the bylaws. In January, people would not post nasty notes because they're making me shovel. And those same people are now complaining, where's the bylaw officer? They haven't mowed the lawn yet. So it just depends on which side of the struggle you're on. But it's also difficult to keep them engaged. That's a hard part with volunteers. But our first step was having a director who's there for more than 3 months. It's been a bit of an issue. And really working on strengthening the board's communication with just having it all work in tandem, and it's working better than it's ever has. Then it's focusing on getting more volunteers in. But we do have some that are there, and I know some of them so talented, but.
Okay.
But it's that.
Moving on.
Thank you. Yeah.
Hanna Cruises Airport lease agreement. Mr. Nell, please speak to that, please.
Yep, so since 2011, councils allowed the cruisers to place a shipping container CCAN in hangar lot 07. For the purpose, they store items for their annual car show and drag races, which are held annually at the airport. The agreement was renewed in 14, and renewed again in 19, and recently in discussion with the president of the Cruisers Club, we have forgot to update a lease since December 31st, 2019. So they would like to have
Pay us
a
back that.
lease, pay their back rent, and so I drafted a lease agreement here. It's in your package. So basically, very similar to the previous agreements. This one will be 5 years, although 4 of them will be out here at the end of this year. So December 31, 2024. If the town received an offer to lease the premises for someone to construct a hangar, we need to provide them a 30 days notice to vacate. They are only to be used for storing items for their car show and drag races. They are required to keep the premises properly in good condition, and they will pay rent of $150 plus GST annually, and they provide their own liability insurance and property insurance. So pretty basic, been going on since 2011, just updating and bringing it back into a legal position. So
Any questions or concerns? The length of this lease?
5 years,
5 years.
2024.
Retroactive?
Yes.
Yeah. So 2 years plus 5?
No, no,
Okay.
so it'll go till December 21st, 2024.
Any questions, concerns?
Mr. Cooper mentioned that he thinks it should just go up to 2029. Is that just unreasonable?
I just think that's
A long
a
time.
long time, so, I was more comfortable with getting it up to date and be 5 years. I know it might be another year from now, you're dealing with it again for another 5 years, but I just thought that was pushing it a little far.
Jason? Any more discussion? Recommend motion council authorize CEO to enter a lease agreement between Town of Hanna and Hanna Cruiser for the purpose of allowing cruisers and place a sea can on hangar 111 for the storage of items used in their annual car show and drag races to be held at Hanna Municipal Airport. Motion. Council Olson. All in favor? Carried. MPC appointment.
So, we have, been looking for a number at large to fill the position of, Mr. Chris Warwick, after his resignation in February. We did advertise recently, for openings on both Community Services Board and Municipal Planning Commission, and we did, put a deadline to apply on June 30th. We did receive one application for Municipal Planning Commission from Mr. Bill Paisley. And rather than have a meeting to have the group recommend, we did an email poll of all the members of Mr. Paisley's application, and all members of MPC unanimously concurred with their support of the appointment of Mr. Paisley to MPC for a term to end October 2025. But all of these appointments require ratification from council to be appointed.
Any more discussion?
He was the best applicant.
And the worst. Hearing no discussion, motion that we council appoint Mr. Bill Paisley to the MPC effective January 11, 2023 for a term ending in October of 2025. Motion by
Mr. Thorough had a second.
Mr. Thurl, sorry. All in favor? Bylaws, nothing,
No bylaws,
no
no.
bylaws. Council reports and roundtable. Anything in addition to report from the councilors? Council Olson.
I copped out like a couple directors and submitted nothing, so I was on vacation as well. A couple highlights, the golf course, we've had a manager quit again mid-season. So we have a board meeting tomorrow and we'll figure out a plan. Yep. The pace presentation was as predictably hostile. I hope he caught proper vibe. I'm sure there'll be more. I hope there's more. He's committed to some. Links board meeting. Staff and administration are still fighting with various government entities with the name change with CRA, with charitable status. It's just a paperwork nightmare. I'm trying to get a hold of anybody there. The hot lunch at Links is growing every time. And it's not the same group every time. It's just keeps growing. So it's a lot of help's needed to fulfill basic needs around town, more so than I realized. There's quite a group.
And I do believe Doree is planning to attend a upcoming meeting to talk a little bit more in depth about the hot lunch program and seed a request that we'll be hoping that council can provide some funding for that program. So
It's a well-used, well-run program for sure. That's all I have.
I have a question. Do you have any word on the rental situation? With the provincial government and
Yep. And everyone.
So there's no change on
No,
their decision to charge them. what they're charging.
no, they've held firm on that.
You
Thank
think with I shouldn't say changing government because it wasn't really a change in government, but I mean, insurance, I don't know if the
Fresh start.
ministers changed.
I think
in
something
that
changed in a
position.
ministry, but they still send the same invoice all the time and. Dory tries to play hardball and you just get another invoice with another month on it if you don't pay it. But no, I can't see anything changing there.
Just curious.
Lots of other places have moved. But there's just no options in there. There isn't the size and the facility of what they have there and what they need. Just no other options.
Anyone else?
Mr. Mayor, I'll just add to, we had an annual general meeting of Community Futures Meridian Region in Kindersley, Saskatchewan. For those of you that have no understanding of it, it's a financial institution. We loan out several millions of dollars every single year. At the Community Futures AGM this year, they kind of did a bit of an outreach to include mayors and community members and business owners that we have in fact provided loans and support to over the last several years. They did have a panel with questions asked. There's two business owners from Saskatchewan that sat on that panel, as well as myself. The two business owners did advocate and talk about what Community Futures did to provide them with the funding to set up their own business when other financial institutions couldn't provide the support needed. It was pretty powerful. My part on the panel, I was asked questions about my position and my advocacy and why I would recommend for anybody else to sit on the board. And I did have a can phrase, it was more than money because of the support they provide for some youth programs and the young entrepreneurs in several communities. But once again, I guess I just want to say to people out there that if you're having trouble getting some kind of support financially for business or other opportunities, CF Meridian is there to help out. And they do it quickly and quite efficiently with their loan procedure. Vicki Newmeyer is the CAO and she's very good at what she does. She's been in operation for 43 years. She is about to retire. So we are using Vicki.
Oh,
Yes, she is going to stay on as long as she can, probably till the end of this year. We haven't got a complete final date yet. We have constructed a hiring committee, which I'm also sitting on, to start the process to look for somebody to replace Vicki if that's at all possible. So, yeah, anyhow, that's all that.
so the one question I have for those of you who attended the Alberta investment, I know the Innovates investment session, was it good, worthwhile?
Always informative.
Okay,
And I said, that's something that we should look at as a partner. You know, with.
The R2 workshop. Is that what
yeah,
you're talking
sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
I just didn't hear much feedback. I wasn't able to attend and I know Mark went and I know a number of counselors went.
Yeah.
I just didn't hear a lot of feedback and if there was any next steps or anything.
I submitted some of the chicken scratch notes that I took. I had some great conversations with two of the young ladies that were doing presentation there. I guess my biggest thing is they've spent all this money, doing all this research and bringing back information to bring more industry and innovation to Alberta. And Alberta, in my report, you can read it in there, is a very appealing provinces on many levels. But my biggest concern was we don't have people in our part of the world to support the industry we already have. The unemployment, we can't find people. I mean, I listened to a broadcast on the radio today, and this was my question. They didn't disagree with me, but they didn't have answers either. I mean, we don't have people to support the job industry in our province already. And yet we're looking at, bringing other industry to our province at a greater level. So in my mind, I couldn't help but think the whole time, how does this balance itself out? Like, do we do more? Is there more immigration status that's going to happen to bring more people to our part of the world? Like, how does it, there's a lot of unanswered questions. As much as there was a lot of great information, I felt like there was lots of, picking and unanswered questions too in the whole process. So I think there's lots more research that needs to be done. It all looks good on paper. But when you get down to the nuts and bolts of it all, it doesn't work. I mean, we hear about it every single day. And I said to them, are you guys not hearing what the rest of our people in our province are hearing? And they said, yes, they are. But this is what their mandate was. And primarily that's the information. And it was good information. It was good information, but in the same regard.
And one of the challenges, we have, I know we talked earlier about affordable housing and a need for affordable housing. But we also have, I think we're at a point, which it's a good problem to have. We're at a point now, I think, where we're having a housing issue in town in terms of, I know talking with the school division, they're having challenges when they're hiring teachers to come work in Hanna that there's no housing for them. So it's a bad problem for them. It's a good problem for the town that everything, for the most part, is either rented, full. There's not a ton of properties for sale. And generally, if properties are for sale, they're generally not staying on the market too long. So it might be something as we move forward. I didn't catch all of it. I was listening to a little bit of Drum Council meeting last night, and they're contemplating becoming a housing developer in Drumheller and building houses because the private guys aren't building them, but to build housing so they have some housing stock for potential newcomers. I agree wholeheartedly. We'd love to have a new industry in here, but if we had a new industry in here tomorrow that needed 50 or 100 people, they'd have no place to live. And it's a chicken and an egg, and it's a good and it's a bad, but, and I don't want to find myself and find us as a council in the development business, but it's something I know Drumheller's considering right now to get some more housing stock in existence.
And the other component they did talk about was the educational. And this was my other question is, we talk about, bringing people here to be educated. And and my bigger question is, what about our people here? You know what, I'm all about immigration. I think to some level, it can be advantageous, but in the same regard, I said, I have family members that are going to school in post-secondary elsewhere because they limited the accessibility to post-secondary education in our own country. So I said, that's another component I really feel passionate that we need to look into before we, go outreaching and saying, oh, well, we're going to open our doors to bring in more people to get educated here. And yet 3 of my nieces and nephews couldn't get their doctor's degree here. They had to go another part of the world. And when they went to the other part of the world, guess what? They're not coming back here. And yet they're from this part of the world. So there's a lot, I think, in this whole process that we're not seeing.
Well, it's a challenge. I mean, the children just crying from a cat, like absolutely crying from a cat. The guys in Drumheller are the same way. So it's not unique.
No.
It's like the doctors and nurses saying, we're, I hate to say it, we're pretty fortunate we have what we have. But I don't know what else we could do. Like I'm with you, Carl. We need to do something. I don't know what it is. So.
I think to some level, I feel frustrated at all the money that goes into this research and the very, they bring all this to the table and we've spent thousands of dollars for these people to do this. These numbers and studies are great to some level, but we're not even close to being there. We're not even addressing the true issues that are happening with every community and every individual in this. Yeah. And so I guess I feel frustrated with that and with all the dollars that go into this. Yeah.
Well, and I think with that, I agree with Councillor Warwick, there was a survey or a question answer thing that they sent out as well to everybody that attended, and all of that information, Mr. Nicola has. It's information that's already been gathered, and so why are you asking for it when it's already gathered and available?
I think that was one of the, and again, it's not, you don't maybe necessarily see with tangible results, but I think that was one of the key things with CCTI money that Harvest Sky got was to get all of the readiness, investment readiness stuff together. So if an investor comes to town, he's got everything laid out for them, where the nearest power is, where the nearest gas lines are, who owns the property, where the transportation routes are. All of that stuff that they will be looking for when they're coming here, and being able to share that on his website and in addition to the marketing materials and videos that were created, you know, I know that sometimes you don't see any tangible stuff there, but as you indicated, that's what they're telling communities to do to be ready for investment, and we've got those steps done, and we're ready with that information.
They really did a good job too. Harvest Skies advertisements and stuff were fantastic.
Yeah.
Really good. Out of curiosity, Mr. Mayor, has Hanna Chamber found a spot? Like it, because I know she had no internet or anything.
Yeah. He's working from home right now.
Okay.
We have talked to the town. We are gonna utilize this meeting room here, as our.
For your meetings, okay.
Most of what we do can be done from home. Unfortunately, it doesn't give us a front. But ultimately, even with what we're doing now with the chamber, we only have 2 days a week anyway. And so we're gonna work from home and utilize this room here. And that's the plan for now. And I'm not gonna lie to you, the pittance we pay to the town for rent in the pub. I'm gonna tell you this, first of all, as the mayor, you don't get nothing for that kind of money. And, you know, they thought, well, we'll go somewhere else. And we mentioned, a couple of us, business people said, you're not gonna find anything else for that dollar. That's our plan for now. And I don't know what's gonna come down the pipe next, but that's our plan going forward. So. Mr. Moore, I'd like to ask you, do you have anything to add to me tonight? Thanks, Kelly. That's about right, going on the business up or the chamber. Gary's okay with me, so. Okay, so motion to accept council reports for information. Council Warwick, all in favor? Carried. Correspondence. Anything of interest?
I don't know necessarily of interest, but you know, obviously special areas board is advocating for additional help for their agricultural producers, and you know, I guess if there's any help that we could give them, certainly we'd be open to it. I wondered whether it would be beneficial if we wrote a letter too, but I don't know if it would add anything. I think they've got a good case. They've got the right people and the right contacts, just there for awareness that certainly there is concern in our rural areas, you know, about farming and ranching with the weather we've been having and how it's impacted them. So
It's amazing what 2 days of rain will do for other food.
Yeah, but it's still,
Yeah, I mean, it's very
Good and bad.
Well, it is, so I mean, it's amazing, like the guys are coming in and, you know, what was total doom and gloom, there's just that glimmer of hope now that it's a little bit better, right? So.
Yeah.
I know they did get some information, some of the farmers on crop insurance, as far as yields, projected yields and what they can do with it, what they can't. And basically, it sounds like for the most part, very large portion of our areas are be written off at 100%. And so be able to collect insurance on it and still utilize what little there is with feed. So that was a positive word from some of the farmers that were here today. So it's an ugly thing, but it's a positive. So
I did go and listen to Damien Kirk in Youngstown the other day. And that was one thing that he had mentioned, is that he had received information to be able to push forward with the declaring the area a disaster, and with experience with the AFSC and crop insurance and stuff. That's basically what they need, is the area to be determined determines a disaster in order for them to put a crop to another use. But unfortunately, it's probably a little bit too late. in order to get anything out of it, but, better late than never. And,
Yeah, my, again, looking at the crops, you know, I feel my father was a farmer. I feel for that. They probably take it a little better than us because they know that's part of the risk, part of the game that they play, but
Next year.
my concern still is water.
Yeah.
You know, when it's so depressing now when you look at CN Dam or you look at Helmer, you look at Fox Lake. I know Fox Lake's been dry. I know we're not at that level yet, but just where it was to where it is now in 3 or 4 years and you just think of how much precipitation, moisture you're gonna need to start to replenish those and fill them. It's just.
Well, to
it's-
bring
it's-
Fox
it's
Lake
scary.
back up, you probably need, and I looked at, actually, I went and looked at the,
Fireworks,
well, not the fireworks, the Frisbee
oh,
court,
disc,
disc
yeah.
golf. You're probably down 3 feet.
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
CN Dam.
But Helmer
Well,
looks,
CN Dam is down
Helmer
probably.
and CN look worse,
Yeah.
but because they're a smaller body of water. But yeah, it's depressing to
Well, the
see.
dock is, 20 feet from the shore.
Yeah.
But
So,
yeah,
yeah, so I, Brent will hate me for this, but I hope we get 47 feet of snow this winter, but
At least in the last few weeks before spring.
I'll just get a bunch of rain, ain't
well,
it?
I just.
Good news
look at-
is we'll be able to take the runoff.
Yeah,
Yes, yeah. Yeah, we-
Too much.
shouldn't be too hard
It
there.
won't be flooding, we'll be able to hold it, so,
Okay.
Lake ain't low until you can walk across it.
yeah, I know.
I see there's an island out there. I didn't know it was.
Or driving across it.
Okay, do we have any closed session?
No.
Okay. Vote for adjournment, Kadeem.
We
got
give them
more
all
motion for-
correspondence.
Did we? Motion for correspondence to accept the information council